Thank you for joining us today for the Treasurers Forum series webinar. My name is Wengil Kammena, and I am the Senior Manager of Communications and Partnerships at the Ethiopian Securities Exchange. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this insightful and important webinar. And as many of you know, the Ethiopian Securities Exchange, ESX, is the first and only organized securities exchange in Ethiopia. It was established as a public-private partnership, and it is to be licensed by the Ethiopian Capital Market Authority under the Capital Market Proclamation number 1248/2021. Our mission is to develop a well-regulated and efficient capital market ecosystem that facilitates access to capital markets, capitals, and supports effective capital allocation, and ultimately contributes to Ethiopia's economic growth. So today we are thrilled to partner with the ACI Financial Markets Association, the leading global trade association for the wholesale financial markets. ACI FMA is dedicated to enhancing best market practices, supporting ethical conduct, and advancing the knowledge and competence of market participants worldwide. So this collaboration marks an exciting step towards building capacity and fostering engagement among key stakeholders in Ethiopia and its expanding capital markets. So in this webinar, we aim to provide you with an overview of the Ethiopian Securities Exchange and its role in promoting capacity building and collaboration. We also want to introduce you to ACI FMA and the valuable services they offer to the Ethiopian market. We also have insights into potential areas of collaboration and the educational programs and certifications provided by ACI FMA, which will be followed by perspectives from an experienced ACI FMA certified commercial bank dealer and much more. So for that, we have an excellent lineup of speakers today, who are, the first one is Michael Hapte. He is the Chief Operating Officer of ESX. We also have Rui Correia. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, who's the Executive Director of Education at ACI FMA. We also have Roy Daniels, who is the president for the Africa at ACI FMA. And then we have Martin Runo, head of trading at SBM Bank Kenya, and also Craig Rode, an ACI FMA accredited trainer. So we are confident that this webinar will provide valuable insights and foster meaningful discussions that will contribute to the growth and development of Ethiopian capital markets. I will not take much of your time, so let's begin our program. So I'm going to begin by inviting Mikhail Hapte, our Chief Operating Officer, to give us an overview and updates on the state of the ASX as it relates to the interbank market. Thank you. And once again, welcome. Mike, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Wengil. Sorry, it's really dark in my room for some reason, but thank you everyone for attending. It looks like we have a really nice turnout for this webinar. I think Wengil has done a fantastic job of introducing things and who we are, etc. But I'll just talk maybe just for maybe maximum 5 minutes. Yes, so the exchange, so ESX is Ethiopia's first stock exchange, basically in modern times. So we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years, getting ready to operationalize the exchange, doing a lot of trainings, etc. But a key market we're very interested in as an exchange platform is to provide services on the money markets. And so this webinar in particular is part of our Treasurers Forum series, so it's very targeted. It's not something to the major public, I would say, but it's more to do with bank treasury personnel, central bank, National Bank of Ethiopia personnel. It's more applicable to dealers and operational specialists who are actually involved in the nitty-gritty details of trading. So one of the reasons we've looked at this market is over the past 2 years as an exchange, we've been trying to develop a a good stakeholder base. Obviously, in Ethiopia, we have a lot of commercial banks. There's over 30 commercial banks. In total, financial institutions, about 17 number. It's a rapidly growing economy, as we all know, and one of the reasons is credit. Credit has driven a lot of its growth, but also one of the things we're evolving to now is bringing capital markets here, as I said earlier, for the first time in quite a long time. So as an exchange, I think it's our strategy to serve an integrated model across the financial funding spectrum. So this covers both all the way from short-term money, i.e. interbank, overnight, 7-day interbank lending, all the way obviously to the more well-known stock market itself. So this session is really focused on treasury. I would say more on interbank segment, money markets, but also anything short-term debt market side. And we are very keen on this. We want to develop this. We had a treasurers forum maybe 3-4 months ago. Very good turnout. A few speakers there. That was in person. But the idea is to evolve this into kind of a proper functioning association of treasurers. The ESX is really just here more as a facilitator. Of course, we're a platform provider for the trading infrastructure provider, but really is to facilitate, create a forum for people in similar fields in treasury to interact. And then secondly, is really to do a lot of capacity building. As we said, this is new for our country. It's new for the industry, really. So one reason we decided to have this webinar is because ACI has been quite widely known throughout the world in terms of having a good standard level of education, especially when it comes to dealing and the operational side, both front and back office. So we thought it would be good. ACI could introduce their educational programs, their reach across the world. We were in Uganda, Kenya a few months back. We got a lot of positive feedback from the industry, from the private sector on the ACI program. So that's a little bit of the genesis there. And it's really helped to develop the markets to where they are now in some of these, in some of our peer countries close by to us. So with that, I mean, as I said, I think Wangil mentioned just updating where we are as an exchange. So we've done a lot of work over the last 2 years. We've, right now we've become a full-fledged company, share company. And the idea, obviously, like any platform provider, is we'd launch the market, have a platform that serves both the equity side, but on the fixed income, have traditional bond trading, as well as the interbank. So it's very young, very nascent, but that's why I think it's really timely now, especially as we're getting close to purchasing, finalizing our system purchase and doing a lot of training probably over the next 5-6 months before we launch the exchange itself. So I think it's timely to introduce Rui now. He'll talk a little bit about ACI, give you a brief there. But the idea is, they'll give you an understanding of what ACI is, what it does, etc. And eventually there will be something tangible. They'll tell you about the training programs. So it's a good lineup. I think Wangel mentioned it earlier. We have Rui, who's Executive Director of Education for ACI, but then we have also Roy Damos, who's the President for Africa, ACI Association. And then we have a mix of others as well. Martin Runo, who's actually on the private sector side, so he can be more relatable, especially to the commercial bankers in this webinar. And then finally, Craig Rod will also talk to us a little bit about the actual training itself. He's a certified trainer for the ACI. So with that, I appreciate your time and all of you attending. We look forward to hosting this fruitful webinar.
Thank you very much, Wangel. Thank you, Michael, for the kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and more so by being able to present ACI to the market professionals in Ethiopia and in cooperation with very active promoters of ACI over the years in Roy, in Martin, in Craig as well. So it is a pleasure to be surrounded and being able to share this opportunity. So some of the things I might say, I just want to put some slides here, which in advance I would ask Wangel and Michael to share with the attendees. But I just want to put some setting the scene about ACI and then about the educational program. So bear with me while I go through some of those slides, and then of course you'll have, I'm not going to go through all the wording is there, but you will have quite a few information for you to analyze afterwards. So I'm just going to go straight into sharing the slides for your guidance. So I hope you will all be able to see the presentation. So basically, what is ACI? ACI is a global association, non-for-profit association that really is interested in the financial market professions for the wholesale OTC markets. And we really try to, since 1955, actually, next year we'll be celebrating our 70th anniversary of the association. It was launched in Paris back in 1955, and it will actually be, at this moment in time, we actually spread around 60 national associations all over the world. We do serve on the core values that you can see there on the screen. Of course, we serve the members of those 60 national associations, but when we are talking about the other two core values, which are the development of educational tools in both angles, when we're talking about knowledge and competence about the structure, the products of the characteristics of financial markets, but also as well, we are active promoters of ethical conduct, ethic and professional conduct, I would say more than just ethical conduct, so good market practices for the financial industry. So since a very early stages of the life of the association, we really keep focusing our activities on these three core values, and it's really important to see that not only, as I mentioned, we cover the 60 national association, the respective members, but also as well we have international members, and we also as well support educational activities in over 100 countries. We also support ethical conduct activities in over 75 countries. So we serve the whole industry, but of course as well, that is well supported by our promoters and our members all over the world. If we're looking at, for instance, and again, I'm not gonna, there's some detail on the slides, which I'll then, you'll have that on your decks to share. But if you're looking at what is the benefit, for instance, of belonging to ACI, you can see some of the benefits that we have for a national association that is affiliated to ACI. There's a few benefits in there, potentially, of course, being connected to the globally recognized Financial Markets Association for individuals, for financial market participants in the wholesale financial market. So that's very important for us. And you do have quite a lot of benefits that are applicable for national associations by being connected into the ACI network. And right now we're talking about the 60 national associations, but we do have quite a few countries or jurisdictions that are applying for being ACI community in the next few months. We should have another one or two later this year, and maybe more next year, because it is a process of affiliation that is really good. So potentially we would be very interested to have Ethiopia join the ACI community. But these are some of the benefits that the national associations get, and of course the members of the national associations also get those benefits that you would see here on the right. So again, there are some additional tools, so you can participate in working groups, you can hear your voices are heard, your voices are discussed, you can introduce topics. You also have as well, and we'll talk a little bit later on that, of course, on the exams and the training, you could have discounted prices by being members. So of course, on the cost to attend the ACI events as well, you have discounted price. So there are some financial benefits. So there, let's say there's some tangible benefit, there's some intangible benefit as well on having an affiliation and the members being connected to the association that is affiliated with ACI. So we really, what we are at the center at ACI, and Roy will speak afterwards, he's the president of Africa, but he's also our vice chairman. So what we're trying to do as a center role out of the head office in Paris is trying to support the national associations that we have on giving them tools and giving them values, giving them benefits for them to be connected to ACI. That's what we are aimed to do. But in a wider sense, for the whole of the financial markets community, we try to give as much value as we can, coming from the experience and the knowledge and the expertise of the ACI FMA members all over the world. When we go into education, I'm global head of education, as Michael and Wongel mentioned. When we go into education, we really focus on our core exams, and the core exams are the dealing certificate and the operations certificate. Those are the main exams that we have, and they are sometimes in some countries, and we'll talk a little bit about accreditation on the next slide. In some countries, they're actually passports for you to start working in financial markets. So in some jurisdictions, in order for you to sit on a treasury room, on a dealing room, you need to take the dealing certificate. In other jurisdictions, you might have the operations for someone staying in or developing a role in an operations area. Sometimes it might not be the jurisdiction, and we do have some of the public examples. Some of the other examples are actually non-public, but we do know that the central bank has recommended by letters, for instance, to the CEOs of the banks that they should do the exams. But we also have other examples as well, where you would have financial institutions located in various countries where they say that regardless of the jurisdiction where that particular person is, they have as a requirement for the institution, if you want to sit in the dealing room, you have 6 months that you need to take the dealing certificate. And for that, we really, really rely on the excellent support we have from our accredited trainers. Craig represents one of the best accredited trainers that we have. They are external entities, but they do support the development of our exams. So I'll leave it to Craig to speak a little bit about that. So I mentioned to you the 2 core exams. We also have as well a higher qualification, which we call the diploma exam. And we also have some exams regarding the conduct, the effects of a code exams. We are an active promoter of industry codes, particularly on the effects of a code. And on that, we also have an e-learning tool for conduct purposes. So not a very large educational suite, and that's the whole idea. We can really, really try to improve that educational suite, particularly in the part of exams and a part of the tools. And as I mentioned to you, the accreditation for us, it's very, very important. And there are some examples which, of course, you can see on the website, and you see the slide where you have that link. But it's really, really because they are considered as globally acknowledged qualifications that can be accepted anywhere in the world. They are taken on a computer but can be accepted in the world. We do have some accreditation processes with several regulators, and there are some examples, as I mentioned before, they are publicly available, so you can see some of those examples. And the recognition of the exam scale, the status of the exams in various countries can be very different. It can be just recognized, accepted, can be recommended, or can be required. So there are various examples, and we work with every jurisdiction that wants to bring that example to the country. There are obvious benefits for that because, of course, you do have a qualified certification that assures that you are able to perform that activity, and this is why we work with those public authorities to recognize our exams. So you will have then the slides where you can see here some of the examples that we have in there, but of course these are it's not an exhaustive list. You do have quite a few other examples, but you might be able to see it there. So I mentioned to you that we are promoting the exams not only on the part of the financial markets knowledge about the products, the characteristics, the features of the market, but we are also very much active promoters of our 3rd core value, which is promoting ethical conduct. I would enlarge it, as I mentioned before, more than just ethical conduct. We're talking about ethical and professional standards. And given the development of technology that we have witnessed over the last 20 years in financial markets, we are actually talking about promoting good market practices. It's not only about our personal action at any particular point in time. It's also about the way that we develop systems, procedures, controls in order to make sure that we are acting in the market with integrity, and we are protecting and we are enhancing the fairness, the transparency, and the competitiveness of financial market. This is why ACI is really, really an active promoter of codes of conduct, industry codes of conduct. Most of them are voluntary. Some of them have been applied in regulation. What we're trying to do is as much as we can to promote adherence to those good market practices, to understand that the industry is actually going in a very, very steady way towards improving its fairness and trust, so that more clients can benefit by trading in an industry which can regain a little bit of the trust that was unfortunately lost over the last 15, 20 years about all the scandals we've seen in other parts of the world. So we're trying to make as much as we can. And that work from ACI actually started in a very long time. We actually started with that in 1975, where we launched our ACI model code. It was the first global code of conduct for financial markets, initially for foreign exchange, and then it developed to cover other asset classes. But we stopped that development in 2015 for a particular reason. In 2015, we started to concentrate our efforts on the promotion of global codes of conduct, particularly the FX code, the Global Precious Metals Code, and the UK Money Markets Code. So that are the three main codes that we promote. But in that development that ACI did, the ACI model code was always recognized as a guidance, as a good indication, more detailed than those global codes that I mentioned to you. And this is really, really important, the work that ACI did. So what we have decided over the last few years is to actually make a guidance, we call it our handbook, to support the three codes that I mentioned. I mentioned to you that they are global, even though one is the FX code, the other one is the Global Precious Metals Code. The other one is the UK Money Markets Code, but UK Money Markets Code applies to UK market participants. But we know that in several jurisdictions around the world, it's also a code that is being followed for responsible behavior in money market. So it is really a good guidance for that. This is why we like to consider that as a global code as well. So again, we made that handbook. So we developed the handbook about a year and a half ago. And the whole purpose of the handbook, it's not a code, but it's really to help the financial markets community to reinforce and to support the integration of those codes. So it's just the front page of the handbook. It's only distributed in electronic format, but if you go here, you will see that in every part of the handbook, you will also have every principle is actually related to each of the principles of the three codes that I mentioned. So it's really a code that provides further guidance, and that's exactly why the name is there, of those three codes that we promote and we support, and we also help as well to develop. So ACI has evolved on the model code, released the handbook, but not as an isolated document as it happened before. It is a document that really supports these three codes, and that really is very important. One of the codes, just out of curiosity, and I'll share this with you, one of the codes is the FX code. I like to share always this sketch. It's just a very, very curious sketch about just the main focus of the FX global code. For those of you that know it, you know all of this, but for those of you that don't know it, market participants group and central banks, with about 80 entities, developed this code, and ACI was there from the beginning. So it's a code very, very dear for us, particularly because it covers the largest financial market in the world in terms of volume. So in order to help the financial industry to adhere to these codes, what did we do? I'll go back to the education part. We actually develop our tools so that market participants in every country in the world could then study and implement on an ongoing basis these codes of conduct, industry codes. So we do deliver quite a lot of webinars and seminars around the world. Our trainers also do that as well. We do have the learning portal that focus on what an entity wants to develop for their staff members, and we also have as well some FX global code certificate exams. So it is really we're trying to make as much as we can. The three codes that I mentioned to you were actually launched in May 2017. They have been updated. The FX code will have a second update later this year. The UK Money Markets Code, the second time updating was about 2 weeks ago. The Global Precious Metals Code was updated about a year and a half ago. So we're just trying to promote as much as we can and give our expertise to the main holders of these three codes, the Global FX Committee, the LBMA, and the Bank of England, in order to try to develop as much as we can. And a lot of that comes from what we do on the education. This is why when the three codes were ready, we were also ready as well to help the market with educational tools developed to assist market participants on that. And this is why, for instance, just to talk to you a little bit about ELAC, it's really a cool e-learning portal where you can train and also you can be certified, flexible way. Every institution will define it on industry codes, and it has quite a lot of that, even more than the three that I just mentioned. The recent one we actually integrated was a crypto asset standards for that industry. So ELAC just has quite a few features about training, attestation, certification, and also management and information. And as I mentioned to you, this is the current content in ELAC. So it evolved from just UK money markets code, FX over code, and precious metals. We also have our handbook that I mentioned to you before. And we have our standards as well, and we have some added functionalities into there to assist the market. We are trying to help as much as we can the industry. So if we focus only on delivery of educational tools for ethical and professional conduct, we actually up to now about plus 78 countries where we have delivered educational tools. We do hope to have that as well in Ethiopia. And this is really what we're trying to do. Promote the three core values of the association, focus on our members, of course, 60 national associations, but focus on the wholesale financial markets community in what we can offer in terms of education and ethical conduct in order to help the market to get more knowledgeable and also to help the market to improve the good market practices. And this is just a brief presentation that I wanted to show to you. And I'll leave it up to Roy to continue. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thanks, Rui. Roy, you now have the floor.
Hi, and hello, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for this fantastic opportunity to present to you on the behalf of ACI, and of course to Rui for his kind introduction and words. There's a lot to be said when I look at ACI and consider that today's meeting, representing from our side, we have Rui, who's our sort of executive director and chair of the board of education, along with Craig Rod, I believe, is also presenting a bit later on. So that explains to you a lot around what I think is the cornerstone of ACI, which is education. And then from education, we're then leading to our best market practices. And I must reiterate here that while we offer these guidelines and the model code, ACI is not a regulator or quasi-regulator. We offer the best market practice guides to everybody. Just a brief rundown on what we've done as ACI on the continent. When I was chair of ACI South Africa, we were part of a region in Middle East and Africa, and I drove a sort of wedge to split us from the region and just become ACI Africa region. Predominantly, we are sub-Saharan region, and I think Rui's covered some of it. 9 countries: Botswana, Ghana, Kenya, Mauritius, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Nigeria is a little bit on hold. We're trying to solve a matter there with them. And then Rui mentioned the new associations that we're working with, and that's also exciting, of which one is obviously Ethiopia, but we're looking also at Angola and Mozambique, and Rui being Portuguese speaking has been a great help for us there, and then Cameroon and Rwanda. So it shows you there's quite a strong focus for us on the East Africa side, with membership already in the countries that I mentioned, and along with looking at members from new member associations, including yourselves possibly and hopefully. Why I led this big drive into forming our own region was based around the growth of the African markets and the growth, I think, of the investment opportunities we were seeing in Africa, and also the investment from offshore. And when I look at it now, looking back then, my drive was to say that we as a continent, we wanted to have our own voice, but we also want to be part of the processes going forward and the processes of changes that are happening in financial markets, and move away from being prescribed to what is changing in the markets, but become an active member of changes that are processing into the markets. And when I look at it now, I mean, we've got the various working groups on ACI FMA, and we've got Board of Education, which Rui is the chair, and there we're represented by 3 countries on the board: Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. We've got the Digital Assets Committee. We've only got 1 member there, and that person happens to be from the South African Reserve Bank. Now, Digital Assets Committee, I think, is something important for us going forward as the growth of that market develops, that we have a bigger involvement in that market and process that are moving forward. In particular, at which stage does digital assets become a desk inside a meeting room? When does it become a tradable desk? And we're very supportive because we believe there needs to be greater regulation around the digital assets market. The next one is the Foreign Exchange Committee. We've got two countries there, Tanzania and Zimbabwe. We probably should have more on that one. The Regulatory Working Group, we've got one from Botswana. And then the most exciting one and the most recent of the groups that we started is a committee called the Women in Global Markets Committee. Now, this is something very new. Now, I'm not going to say it's a gender-driven committee, but it's a committee to improve participation from women within financial markets, and also then have a bigger voice there as well. I'm in no ways getting into any gender discussion on this, but I'm saying that there is a need for greater representation within the financial markets. And in this committee was very exciting for us. We put out for applications for members to join this committee, and we had so many applications of so many very, very good and talented ladies from across the continent. In the end, we were left with a tough choice of trying to choose just one per country. And in fact, some of the countries didn't want to be part of that process. They left it entirely up to us because they had trouble choosing one candidate. So we went through many meetings and chatted to all the applicants, and we selected 6. Represent only one per country. So on that one, we've got Ghana, Kenya, Mauritius, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and South Africa possibly going to be joining a little bit later on. What we're doing then on the South Africa space, there's a South African Foreign Exchange Committee, which is chaired by Zafar Parker from the Reserve Bank. This was established, I think, in about 2017. And it's hosted there's 4 meetings hosted per year, hosted at the South African Reserve Bank, and ACI South Africa chair has a seat on that committee. I was going to run through benefits of ACI. I think that Rui's covered that quite extensively for us. Where does ACI get involved, and what is the role of ACI within the financial markets? I mean, I've said to you that we're not a regulator. We represent the traders from the market, and our representation there, we've had some recent involvements in Ghana, where one of the banks sort of broke the rules or bent or sort of slightly bent the rules around foreign exchange, and the bank's foreign exchange license was then suspended. ACI Ghana got a committee together. They met with the central bank in Ghana. They discussed the matters. With the bank, and they represented the case for the bank. Net result for the bank was that the suspension was vastly reduced. Instead of being, I can't remember the exact facts of it, but instead of being a month, it was 1 week. And they later on had a second case for another bank, and with the same outcome. So the ACI committee is there to represent the members of the financial markets. If I look back on the South Africa side, when we set up the bond exchange, the primary dealership was set up, the primary dealership participation rules were set up, and a lot of our members that were members of ACI were involved in the writing of that primary dealer membership. In other instances, We've had ACI go along and act as expert witnessing certain cases, and also then further than that, I think to go on representing individuals as well, as I mentioned, when they've found there's been a bit of a breach of regulation. For me, the other big benefit, I mean, when I look at the membership for us in Africa, we're now probably around 15% of the global membership. I remember starting with ACI and being involved. When I returned to South Africa, I got involved with ACI South Africa, joined the committee, and I think we made up about 3% or something, or 4% of the global community. So that number has grown quite vastly. Yes, there's been shrinkage of membership globally and internationally, but when I look at the growth in Africa, the number of exams we're writing, the number of regulatory involvements that we have through ACI, the fact that ACI certificate is becoming a sort of minimum standard for most of the markets out there in our region, and if not an entry requirement, it's a requirement that needs to be fulfilled within 3 or 6 months of joining the financial market. So it's a great leveler across all the fields. And again, if you moved around from country to country and you're seeking employment elsewhere and you've got your ACI dealing certificate, it's certainly going to be a feather in your cap and something that you can use going forward. From an ACI point of view, you know, for me personally, why do I do it? We look back on an industry that has served me well, and I've served my institutions well. But this is a way that you give back towards the greater community, and then help out, you know, and assist people with any levels of inquiries they have in ACI, the writing of exams, the mentoring. We look at that as well. How do we work with individuals, and how do we grow people within the markets? So I'm excited, I think, for ACI across the continent. Whenever we have our committee meetings, and again, we had a recent congress in Copenhagen, and we had our regional meeting. You know, I leave there excited when I see the number of young people coming through the ranks, and more important, the number of younger generation that want to get involved in running their own financial markets within their regions and within their countries. So it's really good. If you want an example of where ACI is working really well, and you know, have a look at ACI in Ghana. They're doing some fantastic work out there. You know, their involvement stretch beyond financial markets. You know, they took the time as a committee to go visit one of the correctional services in Ghana, and they saw that they had a need for a milling machine. Instead of, they had to travel out to do their milling stuff and then come back into the correctional facility. So they got together as a committee and they found a disused milling machine. They got this milling machine serviceable again, and they went and they presented it to this team. And so that's involvement beyond financial markets. So it shows what can be done and what is happening out there. So if you get a chance, look up ACI FMA Ghana. Follow them on LinkedIn if you want to, and you can get a view of some of the work that they're doing there. Really is good stuff. So that's it from my side. I'm not going to keep you too long on talking too much about it, and I'm certainly there and available if there are any further questions at the end to take those as well. But thank you again for this opportunity, and we're certainly excited to be working alongside with this committee, and hopefully get a ACI association going in Ethiopia. So good luck, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Rui. Next up, we have Martin. Martin, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, and for giving me this opportunity also to speak on my experience as a market participant and also as an ACI member. And also thanks to Roy and also to Rui, who have worked closely, and also even Craig. I know we worked with him closely. So just a short brief about myself. I've been in the market for 15 years. I've been in the money market desks, corporate dealer. I've been a trader, and I've also headed treasury in a bank. And currently I'm heading trading and also looking at fixed income and the balance sheet of SBM Bank. Also, to add on to that, I'm also an ACI member, and because normally here in Kenya, or in our market, any dealer who is a member or who is actively trading, we also usually members of ACI, and and we usually have our local body, which is the ACI Financial Market Association of Kenya, and that's a body which is usually in charge of promoting the forex operations and any market operations within our jurisdiction. I've also been a committee member of the ACI previously, and also have served as a vice chair for ACI Kenya for 6 years. And at that point, that's when I actually got an opportunity to link up to be in the Board of Education, which I will mention a bit later. Some of the mandates which we are usually charged with in ACI Kenya, or what ACI Kenya focuses on is one is market development, whereby under market development we are the team which looks at market development within ACI Kenya is dealing with the regulator, issues around products and systems, also issues around rates and illiquidity. For us, previously, for COVID and just after COVID, we had some occasions where we could face an illiquid market, and basically this unit under ACA is one which is tasked with trying to revive the market by coordinating the regulator, and also just trying to come up with solutions on how to return back the market to normal operations. There is also sometimes, but which is a bit rare, but they also look after arbitration process. Just a minute. So sorry about that. We also there's usually they look at arbitration process, whereby in case there's any issues between two parties within the markets and they need some level of intervention, the market development unit is the one which will come up with a committee, especially based, which is usually comprised of the top the treasurers and senior officials, just to resolve the issues. Another docket that we look at is events and CSR. And the events and CSR, you'll find the ACI members coming together for things like economic forums. We do quarterly drink ups and game nights. These are usually especially for bringing networking, and also at least members interacting outside normal office operations. We also, they are the same ones who come up with the AGM, because we have an AGM annually, which is usually towards the end of the year, which is combined together with maybe the Christmas party. And within that Christmas party and AGM, we have CSR initiatives, whereby we raise money just to support some various different initiatives, mainly children homes, orphans, education, and also we look at we have also come together to do some tree planting as an ACI fraternity. Then finally, the other docket is education, which for me, I would say it's usually the most active and most impactful. And during my tenure as ACI vice chair, I was handling the education. I would say I'm passionate on that front, and that's how actually we got to interact with Rui, and I found myself in the Board of Education, whereby I would say I'm representing Africa and also East Africa. And ACI education, there are quite a number of functions that we handle under ACI Kenya, and mainly is to engage and work with the accredited trainers, because and our Board of Education, there are a list of accredited trainers. So for us within our markets, we only engage or pick or select accredited trainers who have been approved by ACI FMA for them to conduct any trainings within our country. So for anybody who wants to do any particular training, they have to be accredited, and for them to be able to do their trainings here. We also coordinate and trainings at subsidized costs. I know you saw the slide from Rui, whereby you see the benefits of an ACI member. So we've been able to obtain these benefits as ACI members, whereby our members are able to access training material and also at subsidized costs through that forum. We've also been able to access funding for trainings from various partners by negotiating. Some of the ones I can remember being actively negotiating with has been FSD Africa. That's financial sector depending in Africa. We've also partnered with Bloomberg, and we've also partnered with Refinitiv. The main trainings which we have conducted and we continue to conduct are ACI dealing certificate. We've done the ACI dealing ACI operation certificate, the diploma, and also we've also been able to give to our traders the dealing simulation and fixed income simulation. This dealing simulation, we also work with another fellow ACI member who is ACI Australia, and it's been very impactful in terms of giving the traders or the market players a live dealing simulation scenario for them to be able to feel how markets operate on the real life. Also, there's also the code of conduct, which we also spoke into, and as our country, we've adapted the Kenya FX code, and we've partnered with the Board of Education, and actually Rui is the one who is facilitating this as we speak. And as a market, we've adapted that Kenya FX code of conduct, and members have actually signed up for this training, which is currently ongoing, just to update themselves on the same. I'd mentioned that I'm also a member of ACI Board of Education, which I joined. I've been a member now for the last 5 years or so, and I represent Africa, especially East Africa. So I'm happy to be speaking in this forum today, because I know Ethiopia is part of our region, and under the Board of Education, we discuss various matters relating to education and learning programs for financial markets across various geographical locations. We also look at the syllabus of ACI exams and any updates in the market that will be beneficial to our members and participants. And at the same sitting, that's where we review and approve accredited trainers, and those are the ones which we're able again to utilize during our usual trainings. There's also been a lot of collaboration and support from the Board of Education to our region, and as I'd mentioned, Rui has actually been able to visit us physically to help us implement a couple of functions. The ones that I can mention, he's been here to just help us implement our global code. He has also promoted ELAC in our country and also the region. And currently, currently as we speak, we are actually going through the Kenya FX code, which I think will be concluded next week. And it's the whole market which is participating. As I conclude in terms of what we do under Board of Education, I also assist even members, and then right now ACI composition is usually of the commercial banks, but right now we have also other financial institutions, especially like the investment banks and other markets within the capital markets, which are looking into taking up ACI exams, and they approach me directly for me to be able to support in terms of directing them on how to access the ACI material and train in the exams. For them, of course, who are not direct ACI members, you'll find that even as ACI, when you're organizing for that, there's an extra cost, because there has to be a benefit for an ACI member and a non-ACI member, but nevertheless, we still are able to avail and give them that experience or support whenever they need in terms of the ACI exams, wherever they need. I also have been collating and maybe disseminating information of major developments, updates of education to our local market here and also regionally. So in case there's anything that needs from the Board of Education point of view that needs to be gathered and put across, I usually am able to talk to various national associations for me to disseminate that information back to the Board of Education. And if there's any information that needs to trickle down to them, I'm able to give it to them. So I would like to conclude by saying that being in ACI and the Board of Education has been very fulfilling and impactful, and we have benefited as a market to the exposure of a global association, which has a rich history of structures, governance, and sound market conduct. So the access to the education and training material has seen us having competent and well-trained dealers in our markets. Because I would like to mention that with this constant training, especially when it comes to the ACI, we've been able to have junior dealers adopt this, whether it's a code of conduct, whether it's any ethical practices, and also from the trainings from the whatever is composed in the ACI dealing, you'll find that it has upscaled their skills and they're able to work better within their functions in the dealing desk. As our regulator has actually acknowledge the importance of ACI, and with that, they've made it mandatory for anybody who is in a dealing room to actually have an ACI dealing certificate, and this is usually required maybe in the first 6 months of joining, as a requirement from the regulator. And I would say in our jurisdiction, in terms of the ACI dealing certificate, would be, I would say, like we have like 75% of all the people in the dealing rooms have done it, and the ones who have not are yet to do are mostly the new entrants, and who of course are within that 6 months to 1 year, which you're given that leeway to be able to be to update yourself in terms of the certificate. So ACI and ACI FMA and the Board of Education have been very instrumental in facilitating all these things that I've mentioned, and I would welcome, and it has always been happy. I've always been happy to work with them, and also as talking from ACI Kenya, it has been very beneficial to us as a region and as a country. So I think that's it from me, and back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Martin. I would like to remind everyone here before we move to Craig, there will be a time allocated for Q&A. So anyone who has a question, I will give the floor to that person so that they can direct their question to the presenters. You can either type in your question at the chat box or the Q&A part of on the Teams platform. If you can see it, there's a button for Q&A, and you can touch that and direct your questions for us, or I can give you the floor and you can directly speak your questions to the presenters. So we will have a time for that. With that, I will move on to Craig. Craig, thank you. You can start now.
There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. I've missed all of you. I know Michael and many of you did your training with me, the International Introduction to Securities and Investments through CISI some time back, within the ambit of the ECMA. And it was lovely meeting you. And subsequently, I've been in Addis twice in the last 6 months, and I'm coming back in 2 weeks' time again to do some training for one of the local banks. And the coffee is good. I feel welcome. So I think it's a good introduction of Ethiopia as a country, that it's certainly having the second biggest population in Africa, a breeding ground for the development of financial markets. And to Rui, who has always been encouraging Africa and ACI Africa, which we are grateful for as trainers, for Rui, who supports the education side, he's always willing to help out. So credit must be given to where it's due, first of all. I think second of all, the Ethiopia Commodities Exchange. I know a lot of you are on my training, and I've got a good understanding how the exchange works, but there's always room for development, and that's where ACI puts a big foot forward in terms of OTC instruments, money market, FX. So it really focuses a lot at the banks, but you know, it's a process. I see Rui put a note in that he's trying to arrange ACI Australia dealing simulation in Nairobi in November. It is one of the best courses you will ever do. When you are ready, I would encourage those of you who wish to further your careers in financial markets to maybe do the dealing certificate first and build on that knowledge with a dealing simulation and package them together. That will give you real fundamental and technical knowledge to develop your careers within the dealing environment. So I've got 10 minutes and I like talking, so I need to get to the point here. I'm going to pull up a slide, and I'm hoping you can all see my presentation. I just want to get to a slide that I think would be very, very important for some of you to see. Okay. The slide that you are looking at is vital. Why? ACI and the CISI, who you all know, have a memorandum of understanding. Within that memorandum of understanding, the CISI recognize the ACI dealing and operations certificate as a credit in their investment operations certificate. Now, I don't want any of you to get confused. When I say investment operations certificate, it's not centric to operations staff. It's just called the IOC. Why am I mentioning that and bringing this in now? Because a lot of you, if you look at the Treasury pathway, you have done the international introduction to securities and investments and have a credit already. Okay. The local regulatory assessment that I'm highlighting here at the top falls within the capital markets pathway, and the regulatory assessment is being developed. So for those of you who are looking at the capital markets pathway, if you're going to look at securities trading, then you will do the regulatory assessment and then the securities exam. That's purely on the capital market securities pathway under CISI. But if you drop to the bottom of the table, you now have a fundamental to take a step into ACI dealing or operations certificate, which is recognized as part of the investment operations certificate. So a lot of you are ready and ripe to embark on the ACI journey by doing the ACI dealing certificate and or ACI operations certificate, because you've got your fundamental knowledge in the international introduction to securities and investments, which you did with us. I know all of you, you have a lot of potential. So that is important for you to understand how you're building up step by step. Okay. This slide really shows what is included in the ACI dealing and operations certificate curriculum. They are very similar, but one covers front office, one covers back office. ACI dealing certificate, front office, ACI operations certificate, back office, but also including middle office, risk, compliance, and IT. If you're going to be building mobile banking platforms, as an IT individual, you must understand products, how to price them, and also how they settle. We've had a very big uptake from the IT side in terms of ACI dealing and ACI operations for that reason. So if you look at the curriculum here, which I'm not going through with you, I will send this presentation through, which can be distributed to everybody. You will see it's basically a step up from what you started with. Our next course, so you understand, is going to be run on these dates: 9 to 13 September and 16 to 19 September. All right. It's done through webinar, as you know, because we wish to share the recordings with everybody, especially if you are treasurers, if you are busy, you may be thin-staffed, can't attend all the time. So I need just to show you how similar the training will be done for those who are ready to embark on the training. 9 to 13 September for dealing, 16 to 19 September for operations. Here you will see the financial side, what covers. All our training includes the ACI exams. All examinations must be included, so we know that the investment your sponsors are making in you will be sure to get that certificate for them as a return on investment, and for you. And most importantly, it's going to put the ACI footprint down into the market, which is what the purpose of this webinar is about. So if you wish to enroll, I will ask Wangelen to send the presentation to you. You can email me and we'll take it from there. But most importantly, this is about a first step of ACI in the local market. And I thank the Commodities Exchange for giving us the opportunity. It has to start somewhere. Once again, it started with you, and that's the end of my presentation for today.
Great. Thank you, Craig, for the presentation, and thank you everyone for your input. Now we have the floor for the question Q&A. So anybody who has a question, you can start by directing your questions to us. You can start by raising your hands or by typing in your questions at the chat box. I think we have one question for you, Craig. Where does the ACI FX Global Code certificate fit in? Your mic, I think it's muted, Craig. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. There's a gentleman on the screen called Rui from ACI who is very good at training the FX Global Code. So he had mentioned it in his presentation, and with Rui training it and coming into Addis and meeting everybody, I think there's a very good synergy there. So that would be my answer to the question. That
Craig,
it's got to be a joint effort.
Sorry, Craig, Roy, I'm referring to your was it your CISI slide where you had Treasury at the bottom and you had there the ACI certificate in there and you had the operations certificate in there as qualification, but I didn't see any reference there then to the global code. Would that not be part of those of that section of yours for Treasury, or as we would call it, financial markets?
No, it's not, because the local regulatory module that's been developed is purely on the security side, which is recognized in the capital markets pathway. On the Treasury side, the ACI FX Global Code is purely done when, I assume, the central bank, National Bank of Ethiopia, adopts it as being the benchmark. So that's why it's not included there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we have another question.
Roy, do you want to answer
Please.
that, or you want me to answer?
Yeah.
I don't see it. Sorry, is it in the comments?
Oh, yeah, it's about scholarship opportunities. You want me to answer that, or?
Yeah, you can. I think it's going to come out of out of your budget.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. No, unfortunately, at ACI FMA level, we do not have scholarship opportunities. We do know that the national association, some of them, they do have it. So they do promote, as Martin mentioned as well, some of the youngsters as well. We do have some scholarship opportunities, particularly for new joiners, but they are addressed at every national association level. So you need to be a member of a national association, not at ACI FMA at the international level.
Great.
Coming to the point, yeah. Sorry, Wanga.
Sorry, Rui. You can continue.
Yeah, okay, no problem. About the question about the accrediting local institution for this certification, not yet. So we will be, as I mentioned to you on the accreditation, we would be looking to address these issues and try to get into the qualification framework that are applicable in every country. We recently having actually Burundi. The central bank has mandated our exams, the ones that Craig mentioned, the dealing certificate mainly. We also know from the last month that the UK, the Financial Conduct Authority of the UK, has also mandated as well for some particular activities the FX Global Code exam that Roy and Craig were talking about earlier. They had already mandated in the past the dealing certificate, the operation certificate, the diploma, and they now mandated the FX Global Code exam. But up to now, local certification in Ethiopia, we do not have it, but we are more than happy to engage with the relevant stakeholders in Ethiopia in order to potentially make that happen.
Okay, thanks, Rui. There's another question on the Q&A box. It says, could CISI and ASI clarify their registration procedures for training and certification, which currently seem unclear? And in support of the development of the capital market in Ethiopia, are CISI and ASI prepared to offer significant discounts for Ethiopian professionals seeking certification in specialized areas?
I'm
So
assuming
what we have in our, sorry, go
refers
ahead.
to ACI, am I correct?
ACI, exactly. Yeah,
ASI
should be.
ACI, okay.
I'll leave it. I'll
ACI,
leave
I'm
it
sorry.
probably. Exactly, no worries. We leave it to Craig to comment as well. But just to tell you a little bit about the partnership, was actually very timely question, because we actually renewed our partnership agreement with the CISI just last month. We actually now coming with a press release that this Tuesday we send it to CISI so that we can do a joint release. So we're just waiting for the approval from their communication. Basically, that agreement allows. It was an agreement that exists since 2000, and so this is now for new 3 years. So 2019, we have that agreement. Basically, it allows, as Craig mentioned, that in some particular areas, the takers or successful takers or passers all the dealer certificate and operation certificate can qualify for the investment operation certificate of CSI. We do have other parts of that agreement as well, which is someone that is a CISI member can apply for being international member of ACI with discounts. We also have as well, if someone has a diploma for ACI, they can have a membership of CISI as well. So the basis of the agreement is to try to establish a common understanding between the membership of both entities, and also as well on the promotion of products that are delivered by either CISI and then we distribute on the ACI FMA community, and vice versa. In terms of what you mentioned, Michael, in terms of the significant discounts for Ethiopian professionals seeking certification, that is something that has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. It's not part of the agreement, but the agreement is wide enough to try to understand if there is a project that both associations will go to. And that's the focus of the partnership. So some of the things there are rigid, given as I mentioned, the certification, distribution of other products. Some of the other topics could be very interesting. So we'll be happy, and I can talk to the persons at CISI, and Craig will be very, very involved in that as well, given that he's a valuable trainer and he's been working with CISI for some time. I'm sure we can try to bring some of those issues to the forum and try to discuss those projects. Greg, I don't know if you want to add anything on CISI.
Sorry, I've got a bit of background noise. You know, I think looking at a lot of the questions, this is just an initiation discussion in terms of scholarships and membership and, you know, adopting the FX Global Code. I'm sure being as proactive as ACI is, all this may develop over a period of time. But there's nothing else really to add from our side at this point, besides just taking, you know, the process and introducing ACI into the market with a national bank, and then, you know, they will communicate the necessary to the market. I think it might be, from my experience, that may be the process that will happen. Nothing more to add.
Thank you. Roy, you want to answer? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just.
So in my time of ACI and exam writing and new associations, when it came, you know, writing the ACI certificate or the ACI diploma, it really is, I mean, whilst it could become a local authority requirement, it is your personal exams you're going to write. Now many of the institutions that I've been part of, they will pay your costs of training, and they will pay your costs of writing the ACI dealing certificate. Not repeatedly. I mean, you know, most places will say, we'll pay for your training. I mean, every single institution or bank has a training budget. I mean, it's quite possibly a legal human resources requirement that X amount of budget is a proportion to training. So within that training budget is where you're going to go and get your bank or your institution to pay for your exam and your studies and your exam. And it's a once-off payment exam. I mean, I know the two banks I've worked for, both Standard Bank and Rand Merchant Bank, we would pay for the first sitting of the exam. Okay, and then if the person fails, they will pay themselves until they pass, and when they pass, we will then pay that final sitting as well. We can't have people going, I mean, we had one guy at one of the banks, I'm not going to say which bank or which person, but I mean, he wrote the ACI dealing certificate 10 times before he passed it. So, we can't keep paying 10 times, for him to pass. And don't forget that when you write the exam, if you have a national association, as Rui has alluded to, if you have a national association and you're a member of that association and you go write the exam, you get a discount. Rui, correct me now, 35, I think it's gone up to 50 euros discount on the exam price. So there are small benefits in place, but mostly it's going to be your bank paying for your studies and your bank paying for you to go and write your exam. Now, if you don't work for an institution, then this is a self-development cost that you're doing for yourself. Who paid for you to go and study accounting? Either you got a bursary or your parents paid for you or you've taken a loan and paid for your studies yourself. This is exactly the same process. So I hear what Craig is saying. This is initial discussion parts. We don't have bursaries at ACI. Remember that ACI, Financial Markets Association, is a non-profit organization. So we don't have money to hand out bursaries. This is a personal choice thing that you've got to make.
I don't know if you want. Sorry, Michael.
Sorry, can I
please
add
go
in
ahead.
something?
Yeah. Great. Please.
Sorry, Michael, do you mind if I just add in 1 minute of feedback? So, just off the back of what Roy is saying, and not to take the limelight away, it's just one point. When we showed you the course that we're going to run in ADIS, that is the process that most students will need to follow, is fill out a registration form, apply for approval, and if you get approval, then you come on the course. Generally, one exam is paid, and if you fail, then you need to pay for the resit. So it is expensive, but if you look carefully at what we've done, you will register, do dealing and operations training, and do both exams. So you will get a full value proposition in terms of your career development, and also it benefits the banks that you work for, because they are now developing skill in terms of following the guidelines or the steps taken by the central banks. So that's all I wish to say. Sorry about that.
Okay, great. I think, Mike, the next two questions are addressed to you. If you've seen, one of them says, is ACI accredited by ACMA? And the other one is, does ESX approve and accept ACI certification to professional requirements fulfillment for service providers? So I think these are directed towards Mike.
Sure. Good questions. I think I'm going to repeat what Craig said earlier. This is literally the first initiation call. It's just introducing what it is, let alone requiring people to have the certification. In terms of ECMA, I don't know if we have ECMA colleagues on the chat. They can correct me. I don't believe CISI is the recognized training material certification program, and Craig can correct me on this. But remember, this ACI that we're discussing here is very focused. It's very focused, especially on Treasury. Martin is here as well. Whereas ECMA is looking more at the securities market, which is more, longer term, as well as anything above a year generally. So this is very targeted. It's not something we're mandating yet. It's generally, and the others can correct me, generally this certification actually is required by the central banks for treasury personnel, etc. I think it was stated earlier as well. So if there's a mandate to come, what I envision is that the National Bank of Ethiopia would actually require this membership, because of the reason, like I said, it's more of a money markets certification from my understanding. So yeah, it's not mandated by ESX. I don't believe it's all mentioned in ECMA service provider directives, if I recall correctly. And then I think I'll just keep moving. And maybe the one thing I wanted to add, cost is an issue in terms of scholarship programs, etc. It's really one of the reasons we're hosting this is to see what kind of demand there is. We can try to help facilitate other programs, from other supporters of the exchange, etc. But in terms of cost, I mean, Rui, to be very blunt, what is the certificate? The dealing certificate is 200 euros, 300 euros. I think.
So to the dealing certificate, thank you very much, Michael. The dealing certificate has a standard cost of 280 euros, but for members of ACI, it is 230. So that's the 50 euros that Roy was alluding to. So we do have a cost. And if you're thinking about, for instance, when local associations set up and they affiliate to the international association, they have to pay a membership fee of 35 euros per year. So each national association pays 35 fees, but that member, just by taking the dealer certificate, would actually have a discount bigger than the amount of the money that is for international fee. The whole idea here is that we're trying to help as much as we can the members. One very important point, Michael, I wanted to address, I know that we discussed this, and I think there is a question that could be related to that, is that currently up to now, we do not have test centers for interested market participants to sit for the exams in Addis. But of course, we are working with Mark and with the SX to make sure that we could have an avenue. So, for instance, when Greg goes and delivers the exams, and he has been done of that as well, if you want then, or deliver the training, if you want then to have the local centers, test centers, accredited test centers for sitting the ACI exams, we are working towards to having a possibility for you to have that, because the exams need to be taken at supervised test centers in physical locations. So we need to have that, and we are working with the SX on that.
Thank you, Rui. Wangir, did I answer all the questions? I think.
Yeah, I think that's it.
There's one more in the Q&A on CFA, right? Sorry, I raised my hand.
Yeah, I think you answered, Mike, you answered the last question, but just to make sure, it was asked if ESX approved and accepted ACI certification for professional requirements. So maybe you can clarify on that. And also, someone else asked where we can stay in touch.
In touch.
So, sorry, before Michael starts, there's a question in the Q&A. It says, where does CFA certificates fit in the ACI? I don't think that's been answered.
Oh, I don't see the Q&A.
No, not in the chat box.
I can see now.
Yeah.
Okay, there's two boxes.
Yeah, the last question.
This is the confusion.
Well, we're talking about ECMA, right? Oh no, then CFA. I can answer that. So what we consider and generally recognize is that the qualifications that we're talking about, the dealer certificate and the operation certificate, are really first certifications for you to have a passport to work on financial markets, be it on the front office or the operations. When we're talking about our higher qualification, the diploma, which is normally for persons that are experienced in the market, normally over 5 years experience, that is generally comparable to the CFA level 1. But again, our qualifications are for a treasury environment, from a bank, from a fund, from a corporate, to deal on OTC, wholesale OTC markets. It's not, it doesn't cover all the aspects of the CFA exam. So I hope you're able to clarify that. There's also an answer, a question on option to pay local currency. No, all, because the association delivers the exams out of this head office, all payments need to be done in euros. But of course, you can do the exchange rate at your bank, but the amounts needs to reach our accounts in euros for the exams. For the example, for the training, of course, it's Craig has presented those alternatives and the currency. Sorry, Michael, over to you.
No problem. I'll just quickly answer. I don't think I addressed it earlier, but this ESX approve and accept ACI certification, not at this very moment. It's something we'll consider, but obviously, usually it could be part of our trading rules potentially over the future. But as I said earlier, this is very early. It's hard for us to put these kind of requirements, I think, on the whole market. But yeah, we'll consult with the central bank, etc., and then we'll get there. But just following on in terms of where we can stay in touch, yeah, we have all the social media as you expect. The idea, just to add, I think for the audience, that's important as well, aside from just training here, is this is going to be a series. So it's not like one time we're done type of affair. We'll have trainings going on, especially between now and the end of the year before the market actually starts. We want to have a consistent training schedule. We'll have the actual systems so people can do simulated trading, mock trading, etc. But at the same time, it's good to have, the reason we're bringing this webinar today is to have kind of the fundamental training on a global standard or best practices around the world. So we'll be in touch regularly, and we'll keep, we're very data driven, so we'll keep all this information list of everybody attending here. You'll hear from us again. We'll be in touch, but you can follow our website, social media, etc., for any announcements and future workshops, etc. Let me see if there's more questions. Roy, Craig, Rui, if you have to add, especially Craig, I actually have a question for you. So in terms of the testing centers, let's say somebody wants to do an ACI exam next month. Is it possible to leverage the CISI testing centers? Because there's already accredited places where you can take a CISI exam here.
I think Rui's best placed to answer that question.
It's very quick. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Michael. It's very quick. We can set up an exam center very, very quickly. And it's just a case of us getting into an agreement with the test center. The whole point here is that because of data protection issues, and given that we are based in Europe and exams are given on a computer, we just need to go through an agreement. But from then on, if the setup already works for CISI, most likely will work for our exams as well. We do have a partnership with CISI, and we do know that some centers deliver exams for both of the entities. So that shouldn't be a problem. If you can redirect us into the right contacts on those venues, Michael, that will be really helpful because we can agree that pretty quickly.
Okay, we'll take it offline and share that with you.
Perfect.
If it can expedite things.
Perfect.
I'll drop you a line, Michael. Maybe we can get together when I'm in Addis in 2 weeks' time.
Definitely, for sure.
If I can just add to that CFA question. So in my role when I was head of Africa trading, if somebody arrived, history taught me over my times at Standard Bank and both at RMB that most often people would join a bank and they would write their CFA a bit later after getting some experience in financial markets. But in the interim between that, they'd probably do the ACI dealing certificate. Now, if I was a head of trading in a bank and someone arrived with a CFA, I would recommend still that person would be qualified enough and find it easy enough to go and write the ACI dealing certificate. But if they still felt they didn't want to do it, then I would then attach it that the minimum standard would be to go and write the global code exam. Now, the global code exam is really based around financial markets, and it's based a lot around the regulation around markets. It's a huge amount of work that's gone into first look within those markets, and that's something that you've really got to understand when you're coming into financial markets, into the trading spaces, whether it be capital markets, whether it be the foreign exchange market. That's, I think, one of the key drivers. So if somebody arrived at me and said, I've got this CFA and I've got the global code exam certificate, I'd be inclined to say that's acceptable to me. However, in South Africa, the banks are setting a minimum standard requirement. And in some of the countries within our region, the central bank is setting a minimum standard requirement. So the Ethiopian exchange needs to discuss with the central bank what is the minimum standard requirement, and that's where the platform will be agreed as to what's required. As a new market, I would say that you should be there should be continuous learning involved, and you should be writing that global code exam every 3 years or 4 years, whatever it might be. There's got to be continuous learning in the developing markets, and something that you can really look at. But it's a standard that you're going to set locally yourselves as to what's the requirement. Okay, and I've got a huge amount of respect for the CFA qualification, and I think it's a fantastic thing to have and to pass and to be successful with, and that would certainly, that along with the global code, I think would certainly settle it for me. That's it from me. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I don't think there are any more questions. But if there's any, I'll just give a few minutes. Other than that, I think we can conclude our session at this point. If there's anything you want to add, I can give you the floor. But if not, we can conclude this session.
May I suggest, it's been mainly the three of us talking. Martin, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts or questions for us even, or any recommendations or suggestions for the banks. There's a lot of treasurers in this webinar, so your counterparts are in this.
Oh, thank you, Michael. No, not really, but for me, I'm happy to know that the step that Ethiopia markets are taking, and in case there is any collaboration or any further assistance or information that you may require from our end, because being in the market, we've been in the ACI FMA for quite some time, and I'm happy to assist in terms of developing or setting up, because I've seen the questions that have been asked which have already been answered, but we are there to guide and just provide any templates or structures that could be required. And I know this is the first time that we're meeting, and maybe there'll be other forums on which you can engage. So for me, there's nothing much, just to wish everyone a good afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I think we can wrap it up right now. I would like to say thank you for everyone for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar informative and engaging. I want to give a big shout out to our amazing speakers, Rui, Roy, Martin, and Craig, and of course our very own Mike. Your insights have been invaluable. I think today's discussions have shown us the importance of collaboration and capacity building in developing a strong capital market in Ethiopia and also at ESX. We're committed to supporting this growth and working together with ACI FMA and other stakeholders. We appreciate your participation and encourage you to apply what you've learned in your roles here today. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. Have a great day.
Thank you, Wangal. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
15 million.